Hello and welcome to the Honest Football Podcast, where we tried to bring honesty back to the beautiful game in this terrible time in the world with this pandemic and lack of football. I'm Craig Savage, and with me here is Charlie Betts and Daniel Cody. Welcome, lads.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, all three of us together, all self-isolating ourselves, and we're all key workers. I just want to get up to date with everyone else around the world, how you guys are doing. So, Daniel, obviously, you're a key worker in the NHS business. How's that going for you?
Not so well for me at the moment. You two obviously know, most of the rest won't. I have been in self-isolation for 9 days now with symptoms, and I am bored shitless, can I just say. I mean, I'm still working 6 hours, 7 hours a day on the laptop. I'm still doing the Football Manager video, stuff like that. And obviously you lads are making up most of my evenings doing this sort of stuff. But it's been confined to one room and that most of the time. It's a bit boring.
Just a quick question. Have you been tested for the coronavirus?
I have not, because NHS workers are, as it stands, might have changed by the time this comes out, but as it stands, are not in the key group for that if they have mild symptoms.
Charlie, you're a teacher, primary school teacher, obviously teaching PE. How's that been going for you since lockdowns have started?
So we had a steady decline of kids at the time of recording last week, which was the same week they shut the schools. And now, actually, to be honest, so I was due to on a 1 week in, 3 week out rota. But even since then, because we've had only 15 key worker kids in and like 4 teachers, there's no point me being there. And also my wife is pregnant. So they've said that actually in terms of me bringing the virus home. So I'm not actually in isolation, but I'm sort of in it in the sense of I can't really go anywhere. Although I did come and see you at work today, Craig. I went to your working establishment to buy some food. But yeah, that's about as exciting as it's getting, to be honest. I've actually genuinely been trying to do some study. So I'm learning about nutrition at the minute on the Open University free website called Open Learn, for any of you who are genuinely, if you are a bit bored, they've released loads of free courses. So there's one about nutrition. There's another one about, it's a bit longer though. It's like 15 hours about like dealing with injuries, which is obviously an episode we had a lot of experience talking about. But yeah, some range from an hour, some 24 hours of study. So yeah, I'm really sort of trying to do that really. And then obviously, like Dan was saying, still got to do a little bit of working from home. However, the pros of being a PE teacher is that there's not a lot of work to do outside of the class. So yeah.
Interesting you mentioned that, Charlie. I've also started a little bit of learning. It's something I picked up after a year of not doing it, which is a little bit of Spanish on Duolingo, which is also a free app. And can I just tell you that apple is manzana, so I'm making progress.
Loco. That's the only language I know for in Spanish, because our taxi driver years ago went mental at another driver for nearly.
Yeah, because if you remember, we were on holiday and then someone threw a golf ball at us as well. But anyway, that's another story.
Yes, we thought it was an egg, but it was actually a golf ball. Don't know how that happened. That was my own fault because I got off. Stop.
On to you, Craig. You're obviously on genuinely the actual front line of working in retail and a necessity, in terms of retail. I went to your shop today, and I'll be honest, it was like a 1 in 1 out system almost. There was lots of demarcations of tape on the floor. It was like a weird game of chess that I could move into the next square until someone else had moved out of the previous square. And there seemed to be a distinct lack of Madagascar vanilla extract, which I'm not sure about. The other stuff was also, there's a few key stuff missing, like toilet roll and pasta. But yeah, apart from that, generally well-stocked shop, actually, Craig. So fair play to you. But yeah, how are you getting on with that? You're, a lot of PPE for you.
Yeah, it's good, bad, and the ugly, to be honest. When you've got, to be honest, I think us colleagues, I think we've handled it really well. It keeps changing every day, so we get to you hear one thing early in the morning, and then the next day we see something different. Going with the government guidelines, and it's been extremely tough. You get customers that are obviously they want to panic buy, which. For me, I would have said, you don't need to panic buy. Obviously, everyone's thinking, but where the lack of communication from up above, from the government, obviously has not been clear. So everyone's just gone, let's go and panic buy now. It started to quiet down a bit, but I hope with the lockdown, people don't go to the shop just because they can get out the house. If you need to buy the essentials like your bread, your milk, your eggs, then do that. If you're just going to do a massive shop, just for the sake of doing another massive shop when you done it 2 days ago, what's the point? But staff have been relatively good. Also, we all got to stick together at this certain time, and some colleagues the NHS when we let them in for the half an hour have been fantastic. The elderly, when we let them in for that hour, absolutely fantastic. We will try and help them out as much as possible with certain stock, obviously like your toilet roll and your stuff. But all I say is don't be greedy. That's all. That's my advice as a supermarket worker. Don't be greedy. We will help you out as much as we can.
Can I just say, I saw that in action today, actually. I know I've mentioned it to you two, but I think the world needs to know that when I was actually talking to you mid-conversation, I mean, Craig's eyes were like a hawk. You know, he was looking around, and I'll be honest, as Dan and I will testify on a serious note, you're one of the calmest, you know, nicest blokes I've met, but you absolutely scolded a fella because he tried to take 20 pints of milk to the checkout desk.
You have to, though, don't you?
Yeah, I know, exactly. But I just saw this new side to Craig, and do you know what? It was absolutely brilliant. But the bloke was like, but yeah, anyway, I'm not, people, whatever situations are in. But I don't believe anyone needs 20 pints of milk in one go. And you absolutely scolded him like a good head teacher or something like that. So it was quite good to see. Have you got any other stories of that sort of ridiculousness or not?
I had before we started putting limits on most products. I had a customer come up to me with 100 kilograms of rice. Why? I can understand why. Because he's probably going to put it for his shop, his local corner shop, which you don't need it. And I asked him on it. And I said, "Do you honestly need 10 bags of rice?" And he had his head down like this, and just had a shy answer of yes. I went, "Well, that's just ridiculous." But we didn't have any limits about 3 weeks ago. But I said, obviously, it's changing every day. We are putting limits, and we're just. I think depending on what shop you're in and the environment, if you haven't got a lot of stock on it, so we're going to limit down to 2. It's just using common sense, and some people have been understanding on it, and some people have been really greedy. So
no more of that, please.
Unfortunately, the ones who are the greediest often are the ones who don't really need it and don't understand that. You know, if you put someone vulnerable at risk, you're actually putting yourself at greater risk as well. Protecting other people is helping to protect yourself. Which, unfortunately, working in the NHS, we found. I mean, someone tried to nick a hand sanitizer off our desk a couple of weeks back.
That's shocking, that.
The chain that goes around the £1,000 touchscreen that you're checking for appointments is now around a hand sanitizer. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
No, there's no need for that.
But let's be positive. Let's talk football.
Yeah, basically,
football. Here we go.
Our advice, just before we go on to football, is obviously stay at home. No, joking. Stay at home. Obviously,
stay safe.
Stay safe. Wash your hands.
And practice some kick-ups, actually. That's what I've spent
practice kick-ups, not with toilet rolls. Toilet roll videos.
No, I don't like that, no.
Just obviously get out in the garden, get some fresh air. You don't need to go out for a long... Well, you can do your exercise, go for your jog, but if you've got a garden, go out there, enjoy this. Obviously, the weather's getting better now. The clocks are changing, so you're going to get more daylight.
Can I just say, actually, on that subject, it went viral, that boy who, was kicking the ball against the wall, and then, he had like a little goal. I don't know, he was like a Leeds United fan or whatever. And I don't think, it's not what to raise on that, actually. I think that was absolutely outstanding. And I don't think as an adult, there's anything wrong with us doing that. Not necessarily a goalkeeper, but, there's nothing wrong with me going in my back garden and smashing the ball against the wall and then, trying to control it, which everyone knows my first touch was horrendous. But, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing, like, I think as an adult, let's do that.
Where was the washing line?
That's a good point. That was a very good point. Although I will say, I recently bought a washing line that comes out of the ground, so it could have been there. And you put a little cap on top of it.
Yeah.
Very fancy.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think be a child while you're out in your garden, even if you're an adult.
Stay out in the garden. Don't congregate. Don't go in groups. And stick to 2 meters. If you're in the supermarket or anywhere, stick to 2 meters.
I'm just waiting for the ball to go over to the next door neighbour's fence, and then I can shout over, "Can I have my ball back, please?" Which I haven't done for about 20 years.
Let's do football tennis with the fence. Anyway,
football. Craig,
moving on to football. Obviously, we're going to talk about the non-league football, because non-league football, for what we know from Step 3 down, is over.
And we were on the cutting edge of this at the time of recording. This was released half an hour ago?
About an hour ago before we started recording, and I've got the statement here from the FA. I will read out to you now, and it says the Football Association.
This is Sky Sports News breaking. This is.
Yeah. So the FA has been working collaboratively with the National League system. Working together with the National League system, the women's football pyramid, and the wider grassroots game since the outbreak of coronavirus on how to conclude the 2019-20 season in the most appropriate way possible. These are challenging circumstances for English football, and all decisions taken are in the best interests of the game and in consultation across key stakeholders. Our primary concern will always be for the safety and the welfare of clubs, players, staff, officials, volunteers, and supporters during this unprecedented time. Today's steps take into account the financial impact during this uncertain period, whilst considering the fairest method on how the sporting outcome for the season will be decided with the integrity of the leagues in mind. The National League system and women's football pyramid were able to build a consensus amongst the leagues and, where possible, aim to create a consistent approach across all leagues whilst taking into account the unique characteristics of each individual league. As a result, the FA and the NLS steps 3 to 6 have reached the consensus that their 2019-20 season will now be brought to an end and all results will be expunged. This will mean no promotion or relegation for clubs between National League system steps 3 to 6 and no promotion to step 2. These decisions will also apply to leagues and clubs who play in the National League system step 7. The FA will continue to assist and support the National League steps 1 and 2 to determine the outcome of the 2019-20 season as quickly as possible. The planned implementation of the restructure of the National League system will also be deferred until the start of the 2021-22 season. Furthermore, we can now confirm that the FA have decided that all grassroots football is concluded for the 2019-20 season. This will allow the game to move forward and to commence planning for next season. Our county football associations will be supporting grassroots leagues over the coming days to determine how they should close out the current competitions. Where appropriate, the above decisions will be put to the FA Council for ratification. And also, one last bit, the FA Cup, the FA Vase, the FA Trophy, and the Women's FA Cup, they're still continuing because it's at its advanced stages. I think the FA Vase is semi-final, and the FA Cup is, we just had the quarters, didn't we? No, we were in the quarters.
We're up to the quarters.
That was meant to be the weekend pass, wasn't it?
Yeah, so those cup games are still going on, but the steps 3 to 6, including step 7, which obviously they're regional leagues, they have now been expunged.
For people who are, I was going to say, people who are unfamiliar with that, what is step 3 down and all of that? Because, obviously we know, but for people who are maybe not as Premier League fans, basically is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
what does this mean to them?
So let's go for it. So step 1 is the National League, which is obviously the 5th tier in English football. Step 2 is your National League North and South. And then you're going to get step 3 is your Northern League, your Isthmian League, the Southern League.
Right.
They're the leagues.
It's gone.
So they're down.
They're down. So your Spartan South Midlands League, your United Counties League, your Essex Senior League. There's obviously step 5. Their records expunged, so no promotion, no relegation. There's going to be a bit of a catch for the Spartan South Midlands League because at the moment, obviously, all leagues in that area it's 20 teams per league. At the moment, the Spartan South Midlands Premier Division is 21, but Essex Senior League is 19, something like that. I think it's like because two of the Hertfordshire teams didn't want to go play in the Essex Senior League, so they decided to play in the Spartan League once the system got changed. Yeah, once the system got changed. So that's something that needs to be readdressed again for next season because there's a lot of aggro in the summer of 2019. So initial thoughts on that, Charlie?
I think at the level they're talking about, it makes sense. I think when we start to go higher, that's when we encounter a bit more issues. And the reason I say that is that at that level, in the Northern Premier, Isthmian, Southern League, I suppose there's going to be lads on contracts, but it's not in the way that it is above that. So unfortunately, they are going to miss out on a bit of football money, but that I would like to think that wouldn't have been their main source of income anyway. I can't say for definite for every player, obviously. I think it's the most sensible thing to do. I think in terms of, there's probably a few teams in the National League North and South now who are breathing a sigh of relief, who were rooted to the bottom of the table and struggling and floundering, who are
ruined our prediction show.
Well, it has absolutely paid that, to be honest.
Yeah, the prediction show is over. But
I do think, for me, I think it's definitely the right thing to do for the reasons of it going beyond football and the sort of safety aspects that go with that.
I couldn't see a points per game system because that was the next option that could happen.
Oh no,
see a points per game working out properly. But Daniel, your thoughts on the we all done non-league. I'll speak from my own point of view from a step 7 manager point of view in a second. But Daniel, your thoughts on the season null and void?
I'm pretty much in agreement that it has to happen. I can see you've got yourself in a tangle there, Charlie. What a shame.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you carry on.
So the most important thing is that from steps 3 down, I think it's the right decision. To be honest, the big problem area at the moment, as Charlie mentions, is step 1 and 2, because obviously step 1 we've got already an unprecedented situation with an extra team. Well, a team needing to replace Bury essentially.
Yeah.
From the Football League.
Great.
We've also got the problem further down the pyramid. I guess you mentioned one around Hertfordshire, but obviously the Newbury team is supposed to be coming in next season. So what's going to happen in that regard? That's going to be a bit of an interesting one as well, with no promotions and relegations. Of course, the main change it's going to make is that next season, as we spoke about off camera, Craig, the National League North and South was supposed to go to 24 teams next season, which obviously isn't going to happen now.
No, no, because obviously if the pyramid, if they're not going to change, but the thing is, we're supposed to add extra leagues down further down the steps. So
does that wait a year?
Will that?
I'd assume they'd freeze it all.
Yeah, I think what we said, the statement said, I think they're going to refer to 21-22. So I think.
Does that mean more super playoffs later on?
Oh well, I don't think there would have been super playoffs in this season. I think the
I don't. I just wanted to say super playoff, if I'm honest. I just wanted to get it in there.
Sounds very American.
It does, yeah.
So let's move on to obviously National League, as you said, quite rightly said, with obviously Barrow currently top of the table, 6 points clear.
I mean,
there's some big sides at that level.
Where obviously no promotion might be on the cards for them. Obviously North and South, you said there's no relegation, so your St Albans, your Hungerfords, Bradford Park Avenue, I presume they're near the bottom of the National League North.
No, Blythe Spartans are down there. My tip for
Blythe Spartans. Sorry, Bradford Park Avenue. I still could be right. I don't know, but obviously they're safe from a point of view. So their games are pretty much pointless now. If the season still carries on, we don't know yet. But as I said, the Bury situation is going to be a hard one, as you quite rightly pointed out, because obviously, what do we do? What should they do? Do we allow Barrow to replace Bury, or do we stick with the or do we obviously stick with League Two as a 23 league team?
We can't do that.
Well, you already got League One as a 23 league team.
The reason I say this, Craig, is that if you look at League One and Two clubs at the moment, there's going to be a huge financial deficit for the next 3 months, whatever's going to happen. If you go to next season and then say you've got to reduce your season ticket prices because there's going to be one team less in the league, you've got to do this.
It's true.
The backlash will be chaos, and we all know, as much as it's wrong, the professional league, the EFL, will get the priority. Whatever they want to happen will happen. It will. So there will, no matter what happens, there will be another team in the EFL. And I'm pretty sure that, and I'm going to stick my neck on the line, the National League season will finish because it's a largely professional league.
No, I was just going to say, I think the difficulty with that is that when you finish it, I saw that, is it Anthony Johnson? The
Chester, yeah.
He was saying a lot of his players, their contracts run out in like May or June, in the beginning of June.
Yeah.
It's, for argument's sake, say the season carries on, inverted commas, in August, September, whatever, is suitable. Can you sign a whole new set of players? All you need then is someone to come. Well, I suppose what I'm saying is it fair? Is it in the interest of?
But that's not an exclusive issue, is it? Because that's an FA issue, because that's happening in the EFL and even the Premier Leagues. There's a lot of players that
but there's not a lot of. Go on.
Sorry, so should the FA freeze contracts till?
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I don't know.
When
but do
the actual season recommences?
Personally, I would go Premier League all the way down to step 7 onwards. I would just void the whole thing. And no, I'm not just saying that because of the Liverpool and all that. I'm genuinely not. But where do you draw the line? I know there was a famous video recently of Dharmesh Chef talking about that, and he was saying about United and Wolves. And I know we're not a Premier League podcast, but where do you draw the line? Barrow are 6 points clear. Do you say then if Liverpool are champions, just for argument's sake, Barrow are champions? Where if teams have got games in hand when this league was frozen, personally, I think it's just easier to just cancel the whole thing. But then the big issue again comes down to what do you do with the 23 league team? Because I think, unfortunately, I know we're talking about non-league, but unfortunately we can't talk about that without talking about the fact there's a team missing in League One because of the domino, and it genuinely is that domino effect of all of it.
The thing is, if, for example, say the League One's now null and void. Let's say that, for example. Do Bolton start again -12, or do they go back to 0? Because technically, you can say that's really unfair because this season they started at -12, and basically now they're financially better than they were in August or in July. And if they start getting 0, how's that technically fair?
Macclesfield have had 2 points deductions as well.
Macclesfield had 6 points deducted. So
and then another 4 recently.
Yeah, And so where do you draw the line on that? But then you get like with the Championship where Derby are in a situation where they could get penalised for financial fair play. Do they still get punished? And the same for Man City with Champions League. Does the ban still count? We don't know.
Well, that's the thing. If it does, you're then talking about European places. But surely, I'm going back to non-league then. Surely the same must happen with regard to, when teams get relegated from a regional league, that has a massive effect on where the boundaries are then drawn for that following league, if that makes sense. So keeping it the same makes the sense for the regional league. Is when you get to a league that covers a bigger area. That's, I think, when you have that difficulty. So, for example, the Southern League, the boundaries aren't going to change if the league stays the same. Yeah. But it's where you draw the line of that spare space that Bury have vacated. Where's the cut-off for that? Because if you start then faffing around with the Southern League and Isthmian League, you get the same thing as what you were saying about even the Spartan South Midlands League, where you've got a team who've then got to travel 2 hours for a game, where everyone else is 45 minutes away, for argument's sake. Where do you draw that line almost? And I think that's the biggest issue, I would say.
I want to stick my neck on the line here, and I've said this in every conversation I've had about the football pyramid since the lockdown, is I think all of these decisions are really hasty. And the reason I say it is because we've got this like weird assumption here that we're going to be in lockdown. I mean, the talk basically is 12 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
12 weeks, and by the summer, everything will be fine. I hate to say it as a football fan, and as someone that works in the NHS, but I can't see that being the case.
No.
I honestly think the most likely situation now, particularly like for the EFL where they've postponed it, is that we might not see football till post-Christmas, for example, and we'll then have that season finishing basically the same time as it would have this year, but next year in the calendar year. And in that case, none of the leagues really need to be expunged or made null and void, because you might only have this. Who's to say you might not have only 2 months of next season to play with? In which case, just finish the season. I know it will mean retirements, and it will mean injuries are recovered. It will mean bans are hard to carry over, and referees might have retired. But that surely is going to be the most logistical option if we get to that point where it's 6 or 9 months without football.
I totally agree with you. The only curveball, the only thing I could see possibly happening is something we mentioned about earlier. Is not higher up the leagues, but I think further down, is that some of these teams operate as a social club when there's games, and you're talking about a long time to not have anyone in. I suppose what I'm saying is teams could effectively go bust without kicking a football because of, they can't, when the league restarts, they can't, running costs are then too high because they've gone so long without functions, without, how many non-league clubs double up as a function suite or, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
But if there's a government lockdown beyond 12 weeks, the clubs aren't going to have a choice in that, unfortunately.
No. But what I'm saying is I just hope that then, like you say the season restarts January, but then they're missing 3 teams from the Southern League,
But the
one
FA, again, that's an FA problem.
League.
That has to be dealt with in a national way, and the money has to filter down to keep those.
Well, that's what I do hope in all of this. That there is a bit, as well as what you were saying. I agree about hastily making decisions. I do hope that there is some financial protection, and that goes all the way down. Not just, a lot of it seems to be the cut off when people are talking about the football, the National League South, and actually, or not, step 2 of the non-league thing.
Yeah.
And actually, football goes so much more beyond that. And I do hope that money does filter down to, step 7 clubs like, yourself, Craig, and just to give you a bit of protection that you can keep running whenever the league restarts.
Yeah.
I remember obviously months ago we done the guess the fine.
Yes.
Months ago, and to much our amusement of certain fines. But we remember we had obviously like subscription fees. Now I'm only speaking from my league that I'm managing. Obviously, if you're a current team in that league, subscription fee don't count. You don't have to pay the subscription fee because obviously you haven't finished this season, so you can't actually.
No.
You're not going to pay unless you're a new team. You have to pay a subscription fee. So, where obviously from a league's point of view, with these sort of subscriptions and all that's insurance. Well, not insurance, but all these sort of things. Hopefully, the league's going to right. Let's not bother with this because also we're going to still be in the same league where you haven't actually completed the season. So hopefully, from that, they can wipe it off and move on to whenever they have their AGM. Just moving on to obviously from our point of view, obviously me and Charlie are obviously manager and coach of a Step 7 side, and our point of view is from this season being for us is, to be honest, we ain't played half the league, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You were going
people like us, though, Craig.
We was always playing catch up.
But I think for people like us, it's the weather. I think what's not helped this season for proper grassroots football is we've had torrid weather. We had all these storms and stuff. Yeah. So half the league wasn't being played anyway. So, but for us, it's a hobby. I don't even as a player, if I was a player and this had happened, I wouldn't regret what had happened because that's my outlet. It's good for my mental health to go and be somewhere like that on a Saturday. So if the league gets void, obviously be disappointed because you don't just play. Well, you do just play football for the fun of it, but we weren't engaged in just doing it. We wanted to win a league, for example. So there's I suppose there's a slight thing of not being able to finish that. But I wouldn't regret if you're higher up the leagues, and there's a lot of money riding on it. That's when it becomes a bit more like, right, if you're a Kings Lynn, for example, as an example, it's a monumental effort to get where they are. Can they repeat that next year? Whatever. But the point being, I suppose, is just that. I don't regret the fact that the season hasn't finished. It's sad why it has finished, but I don't regret that.
I totally agree. I'm totally sad that I wanted to finish the season, but I think the way we were going, where we had to have 14 games left in the season, but it would be Tuesday.
In 9 weeks or whatever it was, yeah.
It was impossible, and we still had to fit in two other home fixtures. And it was
never games,
But obviously for our level is obviously we're on the park pitch, and then obviously the cricket get involved after that. They went start in early May, and we were just never going to catch up. So that once we found that the league was suspended, it didn't surprise me that it was never going to.
No, it's 100% the right thing to do because you're talking about social distancing, and actually you think in any football at any level. It's impossible to do that. So it was definitely the right thing to do, whether you're a player or a supporter. Mm-hmm. I just think for the survival of grassroots football, I really hope this isn't a turning point. I do think that there needs to be some protection financially for it because, we don't charge at the level we coach and manage at. And, and we've played it on Sunday League. You don't charge for gate receipts. So how can you recuperate money back? Well, it's in the sort of social thing of it in a club and stuff. So what I suppose I'm getting at is that if you're going that long a period without that, clubs could start to fold if we're not careful. But so I just hope that money filters down.
You've mentioned probably the most important thing there that's going to become an issue for these sort of clubs, probably from step 3 and 4 more so at the minute, and potentially the national leagues if that happens as well, which is even probably step 3. So let's take Hitchin Town's my most local as an example. Their gate admission is £11-12. The season ticket cost is £100 or whatever. They've got to refund all the supporters so they can't finish the games now.
Oh yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Because people have paid for a full season ticket. So they're now having to think, they've budgeted that money. They've said, we've got this much on season tickets, so we've bought in these transfers, we've committed to pay them these wages. And now,
just running costs of the club will be based
exactly.
on that,
so their challenge at the start of the year is break even.
Electricity
and they're now having to pay some of that back. And they've already spent the money.
Yeah, it's not like it's a new ground top field at Hitchin. It's a very old-fashioned ground. So obviously there'll be work needed to be done on that just to get it. Yeah. Once the football season's back, just to get it running again, because the old ground it will take time to actually sort out.
So here's a radical idea then. Go on. No, I was just going to say here's a radical idea. If every I don't know where you draw the line with it was Premier League or Championship, but if every Premier League club, because we talk about the monumental amounts of money that are in there. If every Premier League club said, right, we're going to commit as not a loan, but even as a rescue package for any, for any non-league club, if we all donated, say, £1.5 million per club from the Premier League, that's 20 clubs. Surely that money could be used to filter down as a backup for any clubs that are in financial trouble, and that goes all the way down to step 7, whatever. But is this not a time that the elite level of football has to step up to essentially help out grassroots football? It's not as if they haven't got that money to sort of.
But how long does that go on, Charlie? That's the question. Because if we get to the situation when we're not playing for 12 months, I don't mean to be rude, even those elite clubs are going to start feeling a pinch because they're still paying their players on contracts 100, 200 grand a week, whatever it may be.
Yeah, but the TV money will easily save them. I said
they can operate on empty stadiums, can't they?
Yeah, they can.
The TV companies can afford to pay the TV money. If there's no one watching Sky Sports or BT, they're going to cancel the subscriptions eventually. Who's going to say they can afford to pay out 5-6 billion?
It's a good point. No, that is a good point, actually.
Yeah, we're talking about a situation where we could have 10 to 12 months with no football, lose essentially the equivalent of a full season. And at what point, I know it's horrible, Craig, but it could happen. And we're
Yeah,
the shame is, on a
think
side
it will.
note, I'd actually like it if the people stop subscribing to Sky and BT, because it might get rid of the gross amount of money that's in football in the Premier League, and get our game back a little bit, compared to the way we grew up. But that's a whole different debate. But I suppose on the flip side of it, there's me also trying to take that money and use it to save non-league clubs. So I suppose you can't have it both ways, can you?
And then there'll be a TV company that want to use non-league football, and it doesn't have to be National League. You can go lower if you want.
Yes.
There'll still be an audience there. They can still, for example, like Bromsgrove Sporting, get thousands of people turning up, and they're obviously near Birmingham, but they still get a really good following. I was only Dolly National League South, but they still get a good following. I think at the moment, any football is good football.
Yes.
Obviously, last few weeks there's been the A-League on, which is just fine.
I'll be honest, I was quite a big fan of the picture, because I was at work when you two were watching it, because obviously it's in the morning, of these giant, when they ketchup bottles behind the goals or something like that. Yeah. Which is quite interesting. Yeah. But no, I think they've done the right thing in cancelling the football at that level, but there's a massive stuff to wade through before we get back to playing football as we remember it.
One last question from me, guys. It's what will we see once we get on the other side, where we're allowed to play football again or watch football? What do you think will change? What do you think we'll see changed for our game?
Hopefully, lots in terms of, I think people will appreciate football more. They'll appreciate lower league football games and non-league football games more. The chance to so someone might watch a game on TV on Saturday lunchtime and then pop round to the local, like I do, to come and watch your team. We'll just pop round to go and watch it because of the appreciation. But I really fear that not a lot will change, and not a lot of the smaller clubs will survive. And I think it's actually more likely that we'll end up like other countries where we've got a much smaller pyramid, and the grand scheme of the rest is just amateur leagues, basically.
Okay, next question. Sorry, Charlie, and you?
No, I totally agree with that. And I think, unfortunately, we're at a watershed moment in football, and I think there's no coming back from this either way. We're going to lose clubs. We're certainly not going to gain any clubs from this, and I think we're going to unfortunately lose clubs because of it. It's particularly lower down the pyramid. I do think this is an amazing opportunity, though. I know it's a horrendous thing what's going on, but it's an amazing opportunity for us to claim our game back in the way that Dan said about supporting lower league clubs. And if the money starts to disappear a little bit, the longer there isn't football, maybe the money will start to go. That's our chance to seize it. And I just hope that as a football community in this country, and forget the rest of the world, because football here is completely different to the rest of the world, I think it's our chance to get our game back. And the only way we can do that is post this is to support non-league and grassroots football as much as you can, and actually almost show the elite level that we don't need your Sky Sports, we don't need your BT Sport. Yeah, that's great, and it's football we'll still go and watch, but it's not the only football out there. It's not the be-all and end-all. And I think, actually, without going too much on a soapbox, people like us are the custodians of the game. We're the guardians of it, and we've got a real big responsibility when all of this blows over to really get behind our non-league and grassroots clubs to save football as we know it, really. Because I completely agree with Dan. If we all go flocking straight back to the top level of the game, the lower half of it will disappear within a year or two.
Do you see this break as a positive?
I mean, it's hard to say that considering what's going on, isn't it? From a footballing perspective,
from a football point of view, not obviously the pandemic, because obviously that's totally negative. But from a
I don't see how clubs not operating and not playing football is a positive. However, as I say, I won't go over it again. It's a massive. This isn't good. What could happen afterwards could be good, and it could be a seminal moment in our footballing history. It's whether we, as the proper, honest, excuse the pun, fan, are going to be brave enough to go and do that. Because it takes a bit of guts. It does take a bit of guts to go, do you know what? I'm not going to have BT Sport. I'm not going to have Sky anymore. I'm not going to go to these big Premier League games. I'm going to support my Luton Towns. I'm going to support my, Hitchin near us, or Bedford Town, or, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. It takes guts to do that, to sort of renounce your following of the Premier League, because that's where all the money is. That's where all of the big sort of hoo-ha is. But whether that's responsibility on people like us to do that. So basically, I just hope we're brave enough to do it.
Basically, your message is support local community first, and then work your way up.
But essentially, yeah. When this all blows over, because they're the ones who are going to need it more. Premier League clubs can operate without a ground, people in the ground. Now, I'm not saying you can forget about them, but there's lower league and non-league clubs can't do that, and grassroots clubs definitely can't. You need to support those first.
Any last words, Daniel?
I mean, there's a lot of worries and things just from this half an hour that go through my head. Even stupid things like, let's say your Crawley Sports social bar is all of the next time they're open, nearly all of the food and drink stock's going to be out of date, and all those just silly little things like that.
There is no drink stock because I think they've sold it early, cheaply. I know
Clever
some
lads.
But even that, there's a hit on that, isn't there? Still.
Yeah, so even some social clubs have, obviously I've heard nearby have sold their alcohol cheaply to members of the social club.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the problem is there's no money anywhere, so the councils won't be able to afford to let the tenants off rent for places in the community. So like for your club Crawley, who obviously rent from Luton Town for the training ground for the Saturday match days, then Luton Town are going to have taken a hit, so they're not going to be able to afford to let up. There's going to be all of those knock-on effects, and I really worry that the game is going to have a profound effect on the game in the lower ends of the pyramid.
Yeah, I think it's going to take time. It's going to take time to get things back to normal. I'm not saying like, right, we're going to get the season back in September. I hope we do get the season back in September, but just don't shake your head.
I just don't think it is, mate. I don't think it is.
I'm saying I hope we do, because then we can start playing. I don't expect the season starts in September. I said I hope we can get football back in September.
Agreed.
But I think we can. To me personally, I think the season might start in November. And I think if we're going to do that, don't do two meet each other home and away. Just do the just get a season out of the way. Just do one team against each other, and that will do.
But that's why.
Like for example, like a group stage of a major tournament, you just play with each other once and then you just move on.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was too hasty, because there's every chance that, as much as we'd like it to, we might not have football till January, February. So why make that decision now when you might only have that 2 or 3 months of the season left? That's the only worry I have about it. But because if we get to that stage where we can't play to January or February, then what are they going to do? Because they can't fit a season in, and then the clubs, they'll be open for 3 months and won't be able to play football. So we'll have even more problems then. But I fear
they could generate money and then they can start again in 2021. But fingers crossed we can actually get back to playing football. Get back to watching football later on in the year. But at the moment, as we said, obviously, let's get through this crisis first. And that is it for today's podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter @HonestFootball3, and we'll see you next time.